Look at verse 10 of John 19. Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee and have power to release thee? Jesus answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Therefore he that delivered me unto thee hath the greater sin. Now let me ask you something. If all sin is equal, could there be a greater sin? No. Absolutely not. So, number one, common sense tells us. Number two, the Bible teaches that there are greater sins and lesser sins. And here, Pilate, by delivering Jesus unto the Jews, delivering Jesus unto death, was committing less of a sin than the Jews. And we're going to get into later, under one of my other points, other greater sins and lesser sins. But here we clearly see that there's a greater sin. Now, you know, when you do math, you learn about greater than, less than, and equal to. Okay, we're talking about a different thing here. Now, we have the greater sin, but not only that, we have the greater damnation. Go to Matthew 23. Matthew chapter 23. So number one, we have common sense telling us that obviously some sins are worse than others. Number two, we have the fact that the Bible teaches that there is a greater sin in John 19. But number three, we have the biblical teaching that some people will receive a greater damnation than others. Now, if all sin were equal, God would damn all people equally. He would not have a lower hell and a greatest damnation and a greater sin. Look, if you would, at Matthew 23:14, it says, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation. You see, devouring widows' houses is a sin. But because they made long prayer as a pretense, that's why they're receiving a greater damnation. Because not only are they committing sin, but they're committing sin in the Lord's name. Therefore, they're receiving a greater damnation. Flip over to Deuteronomy chapter 32. Now, Deuteronomy 32 is the first place in the Bible where hell is ever mentioned, in Deuteronomy chapter 32. While you're turning there, I'll read for you Mark 12:40, which devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. These shall receive greater damnation. Luke 20, verse 47, which devour widows' houses and for a show make long prayers. The same shall receive greater damnation. Look, if you would, at Deuteronomy 32:22, the first mention of hell in the Bible. It says, For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. Go to Revelation chapter 20. Revelation chapter 20. So here we see the teaching that there's a greater damnation, mentioned 3 times. Then we saw the lowest hell in Deuteronomy 32. Again, in Psalm 86:13, the Bible reads, For great is thy mercy toward me, and thou hast delivered my soul from the lowest hell. Now, in order for there to be a lowest hell, wouldn't there have to be a part of hell that is not as low? Or else there couldn't even be a lowest hell. You couldn't even make that comparison. You say, well, hell's hell. No, there's the lowest hell, okay? There's the greater damnation. Look what it says in Revelation 20, verse 11. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them. And he's going to tell us a second time, and they were judged, every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Let me ask this. Are all the people whose name's not in the book of life going to the lake of fire? Yes, they are. Everybody whose name was not in the book of life is going to the lake of fire. But wait a minute, are they still being judged based on their works? Yeah. Why? Because some will receive greater damnation than others. That's what Jesus taught.